Okay. I think we're here. Okay. Right. TikTok is taking too long to update. Too long. It's taking too long. So I decided to come online now. I gave it an hour. Hey, Cat. I was just explaining there. They gave TikTok and I had an hour, an update, and I gave it an hour to update TikTok, and it's still taking too long. So I decided just to come on live anyway. And if it hurries up, then I'll go live there. But if not, well, tough, tough. Um, I got your email. I was gonna reply to it, but then it was just before the live. So you were asking how is your evening? It was very long because you were saying the live was cut short yesterday because I had such a busy day today. I'm only just in through the door. Feel very tired, but um, uh, we soldier on, as they say. So you had a question the about the feud between the O'Sullivans and hang on, O'Sullivans and O'Sullivans and McCarthy's. The Yeah, there's not really per se a really want a book a recommendation. I don't have a book to recommend as of right now, but I will look into it. I don't even know if a book would exist about that specific subject. Family history books, um, specific family history books are rare. Um, they do exist, in so you'll get quite a lot of say around. So if you go to Inniskillen Castle, in Fermanagh, there's books on the Maguires because the Maguires owned that castle, so it's obviously um, uh, really good tourists for tourists, gifts and stuff like that. Um, I'm not sure if the O'Sullivans would have anything similar in their castles. I have not been to that part of Cork ever. To any, I've been down to Kerry, but I've never been down to any of the original areas. Um, and so they may have small books. So I will look into it for you. I will, like I said, I got the email today, so I'll look into it today. Um, and we can, I can give you some advice. But for just from like a quick paragraph on it, as it were, the feud, as it were, a rivalry. It was more of a rivalry than a feud. Really started because of things like proximity, close kin relationship, both um, entitled to the same um, throne, effectively the Owenoctor Cashel throne, and resources. The same reason most feuding happened between all families in Ireland. That it was interdynastic. It was purely because they were both centred around Cashel, within the area of Cashel. They were both part of the Owenoctor, which was a loose confederacy of tribes, clans, um, and so they were always vying for power, effectively for power and land. The reason it went on for so long and waxed and waned is because the O'Sullivans were so powerful, and the McCarthys, so it was just two heavyweights slugging it out. Whereas when you see the McCarthys come into Kerry and basically remove the O'Falvys, O'Sheas, and O'Connells from power, it happens within a decade. But I will. I'll reply back to you my tomorrow, uh, and in email, and I'll have some sources and links and um, books. Uh, do you know the O'Donnells of Ardfert in County Kerry? I do not know the O'Donnells of Ardfert in County Kerry. Are they truly from Donegal? So, hang on. Let me see if I do have something on my notes here about the O'Donnells. The problem with O'Donnell isn't just found in um, Donegal. There are multiple branches of. If you can see here, there's MacDonald, but obviously Mac and O are interchangeable. Families will drop it, regain it, so you'll have MacDonald, you'll have O'Donnell, you'll just have Donald. Um, so there are a lot of unrelated families. We also have the problem with the fact that the Gallowglass McDonald's are obviously being given land all over, and who owns land in Kerry? Well, you've got powerful families like the McCarthys and the O'Sullivans who can afford um, Gallowglass mercenary soldiers, and they can afford the land that is required to pay them. So, uh, but let me just see if I've got any information on the O'Donnells. So yeah, I'm always skeptical when a family says we are a branch of a bigger branch. So we had the same problem with the O'Byrnes. Um, this is just a really good example, but the O'Byrnes are, well, the main branch of O'Byrnes are found um, in Wicklow, and there's a branch up here. There's actually a couple of unrelated branches, but there's a branch in Louth who claim descent from those Wicklow Burns, and it says in their traditional narrative, they literally say, "We are descended from the O'Byrnes of Wicklow. They came up here as soldiers for Hugh O'Neill during the 9 Years' War, so in the late 16th, early 17th century. But genetic evidence has proven that that's not the case. So families would write these stories to um, attach themselves onto bigger, more famous branches. Yes, you've said the origin story of the family is connected to Donegal, but wasn't sure if it was true, as family stories tend to be fabricated. Family stories, 99% of the time, are complete fabrication. But I tell people all the time, don't be like, so you get ones that are like, oh, we're descended from um, Spanish sailors from the Armada who crashed on the coast, and we've got other ones like that. Like say, I always use the Armstrongs, where they see a Robert the Bruce from a boar lifting him on the horse with one arm, and these are all um, stories. But the Gaelic and like Irish and Scottish tradition of these stories, it's a tradition, so it's still part of our heritage to have these. We're storytellers. So the O'Donnells of Kerry, I wouldn't know about this specific branch. I'm not aware of uh, of uh, any truth to story, but it wouldn't be impossible. I, Again, I don't know the story, but the O'Donnells and the O'Sullivans have, especially during the 9 Years' War, have a bit of connections there. So it's not beyond the realms, but you just have to be a little bit skeptical of all these stories, and until you find hard evidence. Even our mythical origins. Look at the Book of Invasions. It's just filled with um, mythical wonders and fantasies of. The story of the life burns is the same as the O'Donnells of Arthur. Yeah, see, it's a common. There's a common theme. There's a common theme for these. And like I say, a lot of them are quite. Oh, there you go. TikTok's finally done. Um, there's a lot of there's also some great stories. There's some great origin stories. Some are. Way. Excuse me, taking a wee drink. Some really good, interesting ones, but we just have to be a bit. Can't take it at face value, and but still enjoy them. Still enjoy the possible connections. Like I say, um, because of the links of the Corker Baskin, I would say, in my own opinion, they would more likely be related to these Donalds um, than any other branch, just due to proximity, interrelationships between Corker Baskin, like early history links between Corker Baskin in Clare and the Owen Octor, because a lot of these families in Corker Baskin in South Clare are Owen Octor, so they're distantly related to the McCarthys. Because before the rise of the Dalcash, obviously everyone associates Clare with Dalcash, um, but Dalcash were only a small family originally for most of their history in this area. There were a lot bigger groups. Um, Obviously, a lot of these families became minor families once the Dalcash rose to power. Like the McMahons moved down here, took over. They were quite an aggressive family, so that they were quite a dominant family in the area. Um, so again, especially if you're a branch of the Anorak family and you've got the rise of Dalcash, there's no reason to think they wouldn't move down back into an area where they have kinsmen, basically. Oh, excuse me, just runny nose. Let's get that away. Right, so we're TikTok's finally done its thing. Let's go. Should we go? Should we go in and see how crazy it is there tonight? Um, but yes, I'll. Ooh, okay, right, here we go. I'm always scared to push the go live button. They're scary on TikTok. Bum bum bum. And go live. Oh, chat. The chat there. How do I disconnect this chat? I've forgotten how to disconnect pop out chat. There we go. Just so. But yeah. Uh, Gra o Clan Alba. Oh, Alba. I don't know what that means. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what it means. Is it Gaelic? Gaelic? I don't know. I my 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 Gaeilge is atrocious. As I always tell people, I'm very good at ordering a coffee and a cup of tea, and I can ask go to the toilet, and I can do a basic introduction, hello and goodbyes. Uh, but that is the that's the that's about the height of it. I'm I'm not that. I always tell myself. I actually know this is funny. Before we jump into the history, I actually know someone who I don't know if the world has all the world has Duolingo. Um, uh, but I actually know the guy who wrote the Irish part of Duolingo, so I really should. Um, I really should know more, but in Northern Ireland, it's not as prevalent in our. Well, when I was younger, it's not as prevalent in our education system, and it's not as prevalent in our day-to-day lives in certain in the areas I grew up anyway. Um, so yeah, Enright, yeah, Enright, right, Enright, right. Willie McCarthy is associated with the Dalkosh, with the um, so the likes of the O'Briens, McMahons, McNamara's. It's associated with that. It's primarily like now it's kind of sort of spread into Limerick and Kerry, um, but yeah, it's not. It's mostly associated. Their origin point is Clare. So, um, love from the Scottish family is the translation. Oh, it's lovely. Thank you very much, Ernest. I think I'm gonna sneeze. Right, TikTok's gonna tell me off for going to get a tissue, so I don't sneeze all over the computer. Ugh. I need some hold music. I'm back, TikTok. Don't tell me off for going on live. I'm back. I was just boring. Yeah, there's four, 5 points for Moran, 5 origin points for Moran. Unrelated, like not even five unrelated to here. So I'm doing the Moran video at the minute as we speak. And I uh, the problem with it though I was having is that it comes from 5 different names. So most families, um, like the O'Sullivans, they come from O'Sullivan. There's only really two, but one branch is the most dominant by a long way, and the other one seems to have kind of disappeared from history, which is up here near Ulster, um, because Sullivan isn't that common of a name in history in Irish history, um, and so it's easier to sort of work out. But when you have the likes of the Morans, they have like say five unrelated. So you have 5 individuals with names that are similar sounding um, to each other, and then they've been anglicized to. So you've got Moran, Murran, Murchan, and Mirren. So and that's there's like two. There's Muran and Mirren. So um, Morn, Murran, Murchan, Murian, and Mirin. So that's 5 names that this name can descend from. And then you have all the individuals who had that name, who may have been the founder of a family. So there's a lot, but primarily just so I can give you some sort of context on that. Primarily, they found it in Mayo. There's a branch of the Morans who are a group of the Evina, so they're associated with the likes of the O'Kellys. There's a Muckmorans and O'Mearans, Muckmorans and O'Mearans, 2 different families in Fermanagh, who can both be a long history of Sligo, Fermanagh, and my Nortons, uh, Monaghan, Fermanagh, and Sligo. So there's 3 there. There's 3 families there. So you get the problem with the name. It's like I say five individual uh, Epinus ancestors. and but all been and then there's the English branch as well. It's also an English name. So and then individuals could have come across from the plantation. So you have, like I say, Mayo, Roscommon, Sligo, Fermanagh, Monaghan. So it gets about the Moran surname, uh, or Horkeyes. Yes, yeah. So the loose translation of Sullivan to Hawkeyes. Most Irish sort of translations into English of names are they're loose. They're not taken very literal. Um, it's a very loose interpretation of the name because of how Irish is structured. Um, so you'll often find um, names have sort of multiple meanings. Like Ernest has said, one eye, Hawkeye. They just it's never fixated on one. Um, just it's just the way the Irish language was obviously translated into English. English also the problem is that English is a very lazy language, in terms of how it's spoken, how it's written, and so it drops a lot of the context around a surname or a name. Um, so it's that's the problem you have with it, and also a lot of people put a lot of emphasis. I try not to put so much emphasis on the uh, on the actual translation of the name because a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on that. But the only example I can say to people is that, like, my name's Michael, and Michael is an old name for right hand of God. I'm not the right hand of God. And it's just, and same with Sullivan was not one-eyed or hawk-eyed. His parents just named him that because that was the name. Obviously, in early and even earlier history, there are some families that do derive from the nickname of an individual. So you'll have, maybe you'll have, just for instance, you'll have John Hawkeyed O'Kelly, and then his descendants take on the nickname Hawkeye as a surname. But that's often rare. It's a very rare instance. There's a lot of ways a surname can originate. There's even a couple of female originating names in Ireland. There's only a handful, but yeah. Um, so yeah, it's just one of those. Um, Hi, I'm enjoying listening. My father's sides are Quins from Egankill in Dundalk, but I think they came from Tyrone, being from that branch. Do you have any insights of Quins? Yeah, so there's a Quins quite a popular name purely because uh, it comes from, it's a variation of Con, and Con is quite a common name in Irish in Ireland. So there's quite a few. So you have obviously you have well, not obviously, not everyone knows, but you have Quins from Rappo, who are part of the Kinlowen. You have Quins that are found in Longford. Um, I can't. I think they are part of um, uh, the Evina, though not from the same line as the O'Farrells. Um, you have Quins, who are a branch of the uh, Dalcash. I believe they descend from an uncle of Brian's. Definitely take a name from an individual who was closely related to Brian Boru, Emperor of the Gael. Um, and Yeah, so there's a couple of quite popular branches, but there are obviously a lot of small branches. So you're saying Tyrone, without having a list of all the branches of the name, and if the Tyrone branch were different, the fact that there's already a Kinaloan branch up here in Rappo in Donegal. It wouldn't be beyond the realms. A lot of families, including the likes of the McCowells, were pushed down into Tyrone, especially with the O'Neill expansion into Tyrone in the 7th and 8th century. There was a lot of pressure from the Ken O'Connell. There was a lot of pressure from within the O'Neills. This is a very Inishowen and the O'Dohertys were quite a powerful family, and just because they're related to a wider tribal group, it only causes more feuds. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've been pushed into Tyrone. Um, the McCalls would then obviously be pushed on to join the O'Neill of the feuds. But yeah, all I know is that like I say, it's a Kinlowen name. Without, I don't. I normally research location, wider king group, and then interpret the rest of the history with my knowledge of general movement and history and battles and connections, to sort of build the picture until I do a video on the family, and then I do a bit more deep dive into it. There's no way I could obviously remember the full history of every family. It's hard enough to remember the locations of all the branches and their relationships. But I will be doing the Quins very soon, which is why I've got a little bit of information on them, but they're not. I've just pulled it up there now, but it just talks about, all I've got so far is they had a castle in Rathcline, in County Clare. So yeah, and apparently there's a distant relation between them, or a relation between them and the Earls of Dunraven, but I don't even know who the Earl of Dunraven is. So yeah, again, it's I will be doing a Quinn video very soon. I've got a list. I've got this week while I'm off work the next couple of days. I'm going to be doing hopefully the O'Morans and the O'Cahans. I need to do a short for the O'Sullivans because all I've got for them is the long form video. But yeah, can you do Cosgrove, please? Yeah, Cosgrove. There's two. There's actually three or four branches. There's one up in towards Ulster. But the two that I know for certain, the two I have the sort of more locations of them are the Cosgrove of Wicklow, of a place called Coolin, County of Wicklow. So the Coolin was a kingdom that we don't actually know the borders of. They've kind of been lost to history. You've got the Coola mountain range, and in South Dublin, and then there was a sort of a kingdom here of Coola, but there's a debate whether, so a lot of places retain its name, but we don't know actually where the borders of it were. But the Cosgroves are a branch of Wicklow, and then you have the branch chief. They were chiefs of Bantry, and because they're related to the likes of the O'Driscolls. They were part of a wider king group called the Corca Lira, who were the original kings of Munster. The O'Driscolls were the main family, the senior line, but the Cosgraves and the Coffees, anyone with the surname Coffee, that's another one. They were originally kings of Munster before they were kicked out by the McCarthys. So Blackraven, you can blame Cat's ancestors for that. You lost your kingdom because of Cat's ancestors in the chat with you now. Yeah, so hang on. Okay, Riley. Yeah, we've done Riley. We do Riley most nights. I really should. So the O'Reillys are from the kingdom of Breffna. They're from a place called East Breffna. So this kingdom was split into two. and I might even have a map of it. Hang on, let me. No, I don't. But anyway, this kingdom was split into two, and you had East Breffna and West Breffna, and the O'Rourke's were in West Breffna, and the O'Reillys were rulers of East Breffna, and there you go, a bit more of a cleaner context there. And so what happened was they're actually distant cousins from each other. They're related, so the sometimes the O'Rourke's are the senior line of the family. They claim descent from the oh they claim descent from this group, the E Bruin, through a side branch from a smaller branch called the E Bruin Breffna. Um, Actually, they're not really related to the wider E Bruin kin group, but for discussion now, that's who they claim descent from, and they uh, would sometimes rule all of Breffna, and sometimes they would be the O'Rourke's would rule all of Breffna. So it would really just depend who was winning at the time. The O'Rourke's were quite an aggressive family in their expansions. They owned all of Cork, they owned Leitrim, they owned parts of Meath for a short time. And they're actually one of the families that started the chain of events for the Norman invasion of Ireland. Dermot MacMurrough, the King of Leinster, um, in in the 11th century, gets no 12th century, gets a bad rap for being the individual, the MacMurroughs here, uh, for being the individual that invited the Normans across to Ireland, and their initial invasion in 1169, because he went across there to ask for help getting his kingdom back because of the O'Rourke's. Not just them, they're their allies, the O'Connors, but the O'Connors were the High Kings of Ireland at the time. Um, but yeah, if it wasn't for the O'Rourke, um, I mean, fair enough. Dermot apparently stole an O'Rourke wife. Can't remember his name. Uh, but there's two sides to an argument. There's two sides, and never mind that actually before that the O'Rourke's had kicked Dermot MacMurrough out of his kingdom twice. That was the second time they kicked him out. The O'Rourke's were quite troublesome vassals. They were a very very feisty bunch. um, it's uh, it's but then again, they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones. There's some really good stories in there, um, and they but yeah, that it's like the O'Farrells. There you go. So the O'Farrells were originally subordinates to the O'Rourke. So when the O'Rourke's pushed in from Leitrim into Breffna and took over here, they sort of sent their vassals, the O'Farrells, south, and the O'Farrells would eventually become independent, and literally the annals of Ulster is just filled with the O'Farrells defending themselves from the O'Rourke's for the next I don't know, like the next 4 centuries, just constantly fighting them off. Um, yeah, it's they're makes for great reading. And if anyone does want to sort of go through the annals, Celt.ucc has English translations of the Irish annals, all of them. Yeah. Um, uh, Hi, great chat. Was wondering if you could cover Halpin or O'Halpin. Question. I think they originate in Limerick, but it's possible my ancestors came from further north, from Manor, perhaps in the area. Yeah. Actually, Halpin, you're not far wrong. It's a Monaghan surname in its origin. And they're and it gets it's English version, or they anglicise the name to Halfpenny, So any halfpennies are around, are that's where the name comes from. Well, obviously you've got the English variation, um, but it is also found in Limerick, in large numbers, in Limerick. So uh, a lot of families have come from there. That could be a separate branch. I haven't researched whether that they're two unrelated families. I just know that the primary holder of the name were part of the kingdom of Archieler, so they're sort of associated with the likes of the McMahons, the O'Carrolls. Um, so uh, it's it's like I say, I can't know all the associations and links, but whenever I will do a video on them, and I'll do a bit more research, obviously, into the unrelated lines of the halfpennies, and we'll see what we come up with. There's some. That's the reason why some of my videos take so long, because I try to make sure that they're I find these wee snippets of these wee branches. Um, Ryan, did you come from TikTok? I saw Cunningham a few minutes ago, but it's hard to keep track of the names. Did you come across it from TikTok to YouTube? Um, O'Sullivan's. I can quickly do. I'll do Cunningham in the second round. O'Sullivan's. I have a full video, a full 30-minute, I think, video on YouTube about the O'Sullivan history, um, but they originally originate from Tipperary in their early history. They're part of the wider king group called the Owenoctor. Let me just zoom out here. This group here, who expanded in the 8th century, 7th, 8th century, into uh, and took over all of Cork. The O'Sullivans were probably one of the senior lines, closely related to the McCarthys, who were the senior line. They were pushed down into Cork in the I think like the 12th, 11th, 12th century, due to pressures from McCarthy's and primarily from the Normans expansions. The Butlers sort of moved into Tipperary, pushed them down, and they were pushed from Cork by the McCarthys, just by the McCarthys, and they ended up down here into two separate branches: O'Sullivan Moore and O'Sullivan Moore and O'Sullivan Beara. The O'Sullivan Beara tend to be the biggest branch, and probably the most famous, but the O'Sullivan Moore were the senior line. So, yeah, they're found here. Uh, I did. I've been watching this for the past few days. Very interesting. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah. So you asked about Cunningham. Cunningham, is a branch of. Obviously, you have the Scottish Cunninghams. Really famous. Made probably more infamous for their after the battles of Culloden. But yeah, the problem with it is it gets anglicised as well. So a lot of Irish. So if you've the Conways and the Kinahans, they anglicise their name to Cunningham as well. So there's obviously, as Cunninghams are coming into Ireland in the plantations, which I have a map. I told someone I'd get a map. So here you go. Here's the plantation. It's not a. I would never follow these straight down the line. Oh, hang on. As in say that they are 100%, but you can see. You can sort of get a feeling for uh, how 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 they how these families are moving in from Scotland and England and where they're moving into. Anyway, as I was saying, so the Conways are primarily found in Connacht, Mayo, gets access to like Convoy and stuff like that, and it's also found in Tyrone. So the Tyrone, you've got Tyrone family, you've got Mayo family, and they're anglicising their name to Cunningham. Um, which is a problem, obviously, for a lot of people who are maybe, obviously, Ulster was heavily planted by the Scots and English, but it more in more today, people from who descend from those planters are a lean more towards Scottish heritage, which can really confuse people if you live in an area like Tyrone. If you've got the surname Cunningham, you may think you have lineages to incoming migration groups, when actually you don't. You've just got you're descended from an individual who changed their name to the neighbor of his new neighbor, the name of his new neighbors. So yeah, it's like I say, the Kinahans and Conways both anglicised their name to Cunningham. So you have effectively three branches of the family, unrelated. Um, unfortunately, I can't tell you which one's who you are. um, but yeah, I hope that it gives you some information. Like I say, all these surnames will end up on a video eventually. Yeah. Crowley. Oh, I love the name Crowley. Named after one of my favourite protagonists in my favourite TV show. I did this a couple of weeks ago, and everyone knew what it was, which I was like, yay! I'm not going to say what it is. But yeah, Crowleys are they're associated with the McDermotts. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think they are related. I think they are a branch of the McDermotts. So they're from a place called Moylurg in Roscommon. I'm going to say with about 99% confident, maybe not that much, 90% confidence they are a branch of the McDermotts, which makes them a branch of, in their traditional history, makes them a branch of the Silmuridi, this group here, who are they are a very dominant group, but they are they are another related to the Ebruin, who this is a really bad location. This map's a little bit rubbish. This Ebruin, really, the Ebruin are from sort of here. Left more from Connacht, but whoever's put this has made the Brefna line, maybe because there's a lot of dominant groups around here. But yeah, so they're related distantly, even more distantly related to the likes of the O'Connor Dons, the O'Connor Rows. Oh, hang on, I'm sat on my wallet and it's making my bum cheek go numb. Not because it's filled with anything, it's filled with old receipts and cards. There's never any money in it. Yeah, so it's yeah, so they're related. Like I say, you can see here the likes of the O'Connors, who were briefly High Kings of Ireland. The McDermotts were closely related, and the Crawleys are closely related to them. Doherty, the way you've spelt it there, that seems more like the Clare branch. Clare's, is it? Well, it's down here, Tipperary, Clare region, somewhere around here. Is a variation of that name, but primarily most Dohertys come from Inishowen, and they were part of the Kinaloan group, so they're distantly related to the O'Neills. Their oral tradition states that their origins, they claim to be descended from the Kinloan. So Niall Noglach, the Nile of the Nine Hostages. Um, but yeah, this branch, I have a video on this branch on my YouTube, and they were a very powerful family. The McBrides, the McDades, so also known as Gilbrides and McDavids, are related to them. There are steps of them too, which is why the name is these. All these names are really common in Derry today. Hang on. So yeah, they I have that video on YouTube if you wanna. It's about it was back when I started doing. I tried to do the videos into shorter than, but I've started more trying to make them a little bit longer because yeah, I think there's a lot of information that people need to know. Um, I'm wondering, is there McEwen branch from Scotland? I have Protestant ancestors with surname in Toronto. Yeah, there's McEwens in Scotland and Ireland. You will find pretty much every surname, um, especially native Irish surnames in Ulster. There are unrelated families. Some claim relation, but and there are stories of families being related to each other through other branches, but the same names are found in Scotland purely because of the Irish language. Obviously, the Gaeilge going across to Scotland with the likes of the Dalriata, but not just that. I know Ewan Campbell, although I don't agree with all his assessments on the um, invasions of the Dalriata into Scotland. He believes it was through there was no invasion, but a million micro transactions of trade into marriage and mini migrations from both sides, forming the Gaelic language natively to the likes of Argyll and Ulster. Um, I, I do like when a historian sort of avoids invasion narratives. Not like everything. It almost feels like um, every story when it comes to Ireland, or not even just Ireland, but the world. It's like it can be, oh, that must have happened because of an invasion, but we know life was a lot more complicated. Um, as it is today, you have large ethnic groups and societies in nations all over the world, and they've been gradual over some cases centuries. You see, I know like in England they've got like a sort of there's some rhetorics going around about immigration, but it has a long history of immigration from the areas that that seem to be talking points at the moment. And not only that, they obviously have people who immigrated there from their colonial times. So it's the wider sort of human movements is a lot smaller and minute than just sort of these wave of individuals. So yeah. So anyway, I've diverged. So what I'm trying to say is that you will get McKeowns, you will get Campbells, you will get Keenans, you will get Armstrongs, you will get McLaughlins in Scotland that form individual families, and in Ireland. Some of them have only come about because they've taken, like the Campbells. Campbell is the Gaelic for. In fact, when it formed, it might not have been Gaelic. It'd be Gaeilge. It'd be Irish at that time still. Um, from Crooked Mouth, but the family seems to have been of Brythonic origin. So this is a Brythonic originating family that has become Gaelic name, and then obviously over time, even though their origin roots are not from that area. So yeah, McKeown is fine. McKeown's the problem is as well, just because they're Protestant doesn't mean they're Scottish. religion is not a good marker for understanding your origin points. It's a good starting point to go back to an early your earliest known ancestor and go, right, okay, if I'm from Ulster and I'm a Coulter, um, and my earliest known ancestor is Scottish, not Scottish, is Protestant, is Presbyterian, uh, from the 17th to 18th century, chances are maybe that I am from my family did come across with the plantations, rather than being related to the Irish Coulters. Um, but it's not 100%. Families, there's often been a big push by Britain, not as I mean, from the governments in London to obviously uh, change the religion of the Irish from Catholicism to various Protestantism. So, um, and you're going to take the as there's a lot of evidence. If you go anywhere if you come down the peninsula, we have a lot of Presbyterian churches with Irish surnames in it. So, it's not beyond the realms that as these incoming Presbyterians are coming into Ireland, that the native Irish in the area are adopting the religion for various reasons. So, again, just because there are native Irish McKeowns in Tyrone, I believe they descend from the O'Neills, but there are obviously Scottish ones too. Dalriada wasn't an invasion; it was a shared kingdom between Ireland and Scotland, and that's how we get the Gaelic language in Scotland. Yeah, the debate that the jury's out on it. The jury's out on it. Dr. Cormac McSporran is puts a great case forward for the Dalriada going across and taking over that part of Scotland. The Ewan Campbell puts up another case, obviously, like I said, um, about it being a shared kingdom, microtransactions, sharing culture rather than an invasion. Um, you know, so the jury's out on it, and I'll listen to both cases. I've studied both sides of the argument. I, for one, support um, a Dr. Cormac McSporran's assessment of the movement from Ireland to Scotland. But we have to remember the Dalriata were a Proto-Brythonic group anyway. They weren't Gaels. They didn't, although they spoke Irish, dressed Irish, all their culture was Irish. Um, they're totally, from an archaeological standpoint, they're totally indistinguishable from their Irish neighbours. They obviously have edited their genealogies for political reasons to be associated with the Irish families as well. So they are very immersed. They're Irish effectively, but their ancient genetic lineage actually stems from Britain, mainland Britain, and they've come across to Ireland. They've settled for a few centuries, and then they've gone back to Scotland. So, yeah. So I mean, but one is modern day Scotland. So yeah, like you say, like Ernest says, there's a lot of we're a lot more interlinked than we can, and getting these weird nationalistic views of, Scotland and Ireland is links to ancient societies and ancient, you know, and putting that into modern politics is weird. um, Wikipedia told me no plant or branches exist. That's wiki for you. Yeah, I mean Wikipedia is a great source. Don't ever totally dis like I can't even think of the word, but yeah, it's a great source. But I find Wikipedia is great for the sources, not for what's written in Wikipedia. If you go to the source page at the bottom, there's some excellent sources in there for everything. Again, um, uh, there's always going to be a Scottish branch, always. 9 times out of 10. Um, Yeah, so hang on, someone's asking for a name there. Can you do the surname Long? Yeah, Long's obviously in its etymology, in its origin, it's mostly associated with the English coming across um, from the plantations, and I believe there was one family that had came across with the Cromwellian forces and were given a bit of land. And then we obviously have um, what you call it? Um, oh my god, can't remember. Anyway, but there are branches of there are families that anglicise their name too long. So it's a branch of the Langans as well. So the Langans are uh, shorten their name to Long. Um, there's a I think the Longians did as well. They they shortened their name to Long. So there's again it comes up to well, I think the Longins and the Langans are the same branch. But anyway, yeah, Long has an Irish and an English variation of the name, and I think they also claim sort of Norse Viking descent. But anyone that follows the channel know I hate that sort of um, uh, association with Vikings, considering surnames happened 200 surnames sort of originated at the end of the Viking period. By this stage they're not really Vikings, and they're not really Norse. They're Gaul Gaels. They're a hybridization. There's 300 years of hybridization between Norse settlers and Irish settlers. So but yeah, like I say, Long is actually uh, primarily found in Roscommon, um, and like I said, but there are branches that came across to Ireland from, and I don't know if the Ulster branches have any Irish lines, but yeah, yeah. So stay away. I tell anyone to sort of stay away from anything that says this is a Viking surname. If you ever see that on a page, this is a Viking surname, just go to a new page. Go to a new page. I think the I think actually probably the only family that I would give that title to is the McCotters. I could give that because they have links to the Isle of Man. The McCotters are influenced, heavily involved in Dublin politics, um, and have a line from that. So the only family I would ever not roll my eyes at completely if I saw that written down is the McCotters. Um, I believe the McGuinnesses and Down are I2 of some sort. Have I missed? Oh, have I missed? I don't know what I2 is. I'd love. My surname is Monaghan. I'd love some information about them. Yeah, so Monaghan. I say this every time someone asks for it. It gets asked probably most nights. To be fair, yeah, it does. It seems to be quite a common surname. But I always laugh at Monaghan because it's not. You would think a lot of names can be associated with a location. You would think that it would be associated with the county Monaghan, but it's not. It's a Roscommon surname. And they were on the banks of the Shannon. So this black line here, which is a boundary, barony boundary, is sort of follows the Shannon, and I can't. Someone did ask the other week, and I said I remembered where they were from. Um, Ballintubber, I think. So, but yes, yeah, Monaghan. The surname Monaghan is from Roscommon, not from Monaghan. Uh, I'm from the US, but I've lived all over the world. Was able to visit Ireland when I was a kid. I don't know much about the O'Briens, other my family did immigrate from Tipperary and Cork area. Yeah, so O'Brien is, well, the problem with um, O'Brien, obviously they've got a very famous line, probably, arguably the most famous, uh, more in the top three most famous surname in Ireland, because of its links to Brian Boru, who was the king of, he was one of the very few kings to actually conquer the entire island of Ireland, and he his descendants took on the name O'Brien, um, and from that we have a lot of O'Briens that you can find the name sort of pushes along this belt here all the way to Waterford. There's like a thick belt of O'Brien's tends to be, and that sort of almost goes in line with their expansionist um, uh, their expansions into Owenocta territory, and the lands they've obviously given out to their descendants. So, and they were quite a prominent family for most of the medieval period in Ireland. In fact, they've been involved. They're probably one of the most influential families in Irish history, definitely in the top five. Um, but the problem with it is that you've got the surname Breen as well. I don't think so. Here you can find the Breens here. You can find the Breens here in Roscommon. Um, there's another branch about. I can't remember where they are for the life of me at the minute. Um, but that can be that comes from because O'Brien is an anglicisation of Ebrian, so they're very similar in their origins, and also Byrne as well. Burns can become O'Briens, um, and then you've got O'Byrons, so you've got three clans families all anglicising their names very similarly into modern day O'Brien. You also have the Bryans, who are an English branch, who come across to Ireland, and I believe there is a Norman branch of the family as well from De Bryan, who owned land um, somewhere between Tipperary and Leinster. I'm not quite sure where, but I know that's a large area to work with. But he so as you can see, the name as O'Brien has many problems, but most O'Briens associate with or claim lineage to the Dalcash family from Brian Brew. Um, uh, who's I don't know. DNA will prove otherwise. Um, my maiden surname is Ryan, formerly Orion. Can you tell me anything about them? Yeah, they're mostly probably the most famous branch is the Mulryans, or which became Ryan and Orion from Tipperary. They're probably the most famous and most numerous. I will say um, before I start anything um, about the Orions, is that if you are on Facebook, if anyone has Orion or Ryan heritage and you're on Facebook, check out the Tipperary Antiquarian. He is a great source for the Ryans. He's spent a long time researching the Ryans, and I will be using him for my sources for my Orion video. Hopefully we will collaborate together on them in the future. We have spoke about it in the past, but life gets in the way. Anyway, so I will Tipperary Antiquarian. He is the, like I say, he is the wanted subject matter expert on that branch. So I just put that in there first before, and see him while I'm plugging people of interest. Check out Philip at Irish Medieval History for wider context of history, and also check out a good friend of mine, Clint Edwards at Scottish Clans podcast. If you've got Scottish heritage, Scottish clan history, he basically does what I do, but about the Scottish families primarily, and he does it far better than I do. He's a great guy. So like I say, I finished plugging the individual friends and great sources. I Yeah. So anyway, yeah, these Ryans are Tipperary. They're sort of they claim to be originally from Leinster, and they've migrated here in like the 13th, 14th century. In a place it's actually called Onibeg. Um, so there's that branch is probably the most numerous and probably most famous. There's another one. I don't know if they're a sub branch of this small Ryan, but they're from Idrone, or Idrona, in Carlow, um, and apparently some Doyles are a branch of these two, because this Ryan, his father was Dovgilla, King of Idrone, so apparently some Doyles are a branch of the Kings of Idrone. Um, then you have the did I even write them in? No. You have the Mayo branch as well. They're part of the Efiacra. So the Efiacra Mui are a tribal group, primarily ruled by the O'Dowds. So if you're a Ryan from the Mayo area, you could descend from O'Dowd lineages, or distant cousins of them. Basically, there's obviously another line that are associated with the Evina kingdom. Let's go back to this map. The Evinas, who were actually they were the main kingdom in between Connacht and Meath, for centuries before they were pushed out by the Ebruan and the O'Rourke's, basically squeezed them down here, into Roscommon, in the 10th, 11th century. Um, where's my? I forgot which map. I think that's it, isn't there? Wait, there's a Donegal family as well. There's Donegal. This one, this one's a bit more. So there's the Shreen family in Donegal, who for some reason anglicised their name to, well, they're because their Old Irish name is Shruthon, and it gets anglicised to Shreen and Shrahan. But for some reason, some of them have changed the name to Ryans. So you do get some Ryans in Donegal. Um, um, Ferdach, King of Dalriada. What about it, Jimmy? Sorry, I don't know. I'm not. Kings are unless you are a progenitor of a family, or sort of middle-aged high king. I'm not really that on all of them. But yeah. Hang on, I've lost my YouTube chat. There we go. I always do this. Yeah. So I started charging. Oh, hang on. I've skipped a question here. Hang on. Kelly's. Oh, Kelly's is not annoying. They're great history. The problem with it is there's 10 origin points of the Kellys. 10 unrelated families. I've got the surname Kelly. Can you all just go into a big boxing ring and fight it out? And then whoever wins, that's where the Kellys come from. Because there's just no need for 10 points of Kellys. Right, right. So there's one from England, there's one from Scotland, and there's 8 from Ireland. And you're very welcome, Samantha. Hopefully it's not too confusing. I know that everyone here has varying degrees of understanding of Irish history, and some of it may go over your head, but I promise that whenever I do the videos, I try and make it a little bit more comprehensive, a little bit more understandable for everyone. This The whole point of this channel is to sort of make it more accessible, to everyone, anything. So Kelly's, right? So let's start with the most famous Irish line is the O'Kellys of Ivina in Roscommon. They were kings of the tribal group, whatever, of the Ivina, um, and they are without doubt the most numerous um, branches. You have three families of O'Kellys in Meath. And sometimes one of them gets anglicised to Keeley quite commonly. Um, I can't remember if they're Keelys that became Kellys or Kellys that became Keelys. Either way, Keeley is in there too. It's another branch of the. Hang on, I need to move that Keeley. It's annoying me. It's no. Right, well, maybe we won't. I seem to have linked them all together. Anyway, so yeah, there's three unrelated families in. I believe one of the Kellys comes from the Efeely king group. Let me see if I've got that. If they appear on this map, yeah, the Efeely king group. I believe actually maybe two of them come from the Efeely king group. And then apparently I think one of them comes from the Southern Eneal, so the Southern Eneal king groups. So then you've got the Kellys up here, who are related to the likes of the McGuinnesses, which really confuses if you're an O'Kelly from Scotland or England. Or not O'Kelly. So I when I put this, that's a typo, that O. But if you're a Kelly from Scotland or England, obviously they've moved into an area where there's Kellys already, and yeah, they're linked to McGuinness's. And then you have Kellys up here in Derry, who are, I believe, part of the I don't know if they're related to the O'Keans, but they're part of the Kenaloan, so they're distantly related to the O'Neills. And like I said, then you've got the Kellys from England who do an ice cream. They're from Cornwall. And then Kelly's ice cream is very nice. And then you have the O'Kellys from Scotland, not O'Kellys. Kellys from Scotland. So yeah, bit of a lot. I don't know like I said why they had so many branches. I probably missed something because I lost count. Oh yeah, there you go. I don't remember covering the Sligo branch, O'Kellys, who are related to the Hearts and the so yeah, there's just I don't see Egan's, but I saw lines. Yeah, this map is incomplete, everyone. Just so you know, it's a work in progress. Um, so yeah, if you're wondering why, it's because the maps I've used in the past were they didn't have enough names on them, and so I've been working through this map um, at a snail pace. There's Leon's there as well, just so people can have a bit more have their name sort of shown. And hang on, let me just see here. Aren't the Nugents from the Dublin area? Yeah, North Dublin, North in Meath. They're from they were they held lands in the Peel. Yes, I know it's time. We've been live an hour, so TikTok likes to make sure that you're still live. So yeah, the Nugents are they've from I think Meath. I actually they famously took part in most conflicts. I mentioned them in the Battle of Knockdoe on my Battle of Knockdoe video, the bloodiest medieval Irish battle. And actually one of the first places where the firearms were used in Ireland. The first claimed, and I suspect this is claimed, but apparently the first individual who died by a firearm in Ireland died at the Battle of Knockdoe, but he wasn't shot, he was beaten to death with it. So, which I always thought was a bit of a laugh. Um, anyway, um, hang on. So what I've forgotten. I said so. Yeah, that's where the news is from. Sort of Meath area, landholders there. Um, have I missed a name? Anyone? I don't want to miss any. Oh, I'm missing loads of names. Missing loads of names. Um, but there are a lot of you. There are a lot of you typing away, and just keep typing. I'll hopefully it'll get my attention in amongst all this. I will say, anyone that's sort of maybe get a bit frustrated, YouTube is a little bit less chaotic than the TikTok chat. So if you want a good chance to see your name, pop across to YouTube live. It's a little bit less chaotic than than uh, than there. So McInerney's, yes, Sons of the Earners, and Luke McInerney, the academic Luke McInerney's done some great research on them, um, but they're primarily a Clare family, and it means son of the earner. So an earner is a hereditary title of landholding families within the church. I have a video on them on my TikTok and YouTube in short form. So what an earner is, what their sort of job title and entailed. But yeah, it means son of the earner basically, and it's they're related to the Dalkosh king group. So Brian's kinsman, as it were. I don't know what. Like I say, Luke McInerney has done better. Has done some great research. I haven't read all of his work, so I can't tell you too much more about what church they're associated with or anything like that. But I am working on a large project at the minute of all the Earner families and all the churches they're associated with. It's a work in progress though. It's where there's a lot of families. There's a lot of the problem is the early church history was very important in Irish politics. I've researched the origin of surname Cooley. It says it's Anglicized form of Macgilla Cooley, meaning son or servant of Saint of Mochul. Interesting. Yeah, that's true. And they're from County Clare too. So mostly whenever you see anything with Gilla in it, it's normally the servant or follower of an individual, of a saint, and most of them have associations with churches, like the McInerneys. Most of them come from Earner families or Corb families. A Corb is a hereditary saint, hereditary successors to saints. Now, there's a debate whether that's a blood successor or a political successor of a saint who founded a church. But most of the families who are followers or servants of a saint normally have some connection to the church in question. So you'd probably be looking for any churches in Clare that were founded by Mochul. That would be like the best place to start for that. with that. Doyle, I have a video on the Doyles. I have a video on the Doyles on my um, um, on my on all channels in short form. But yeah, they're again. It comes back to my original point that it's not a Viking name, but it is a name of. It's a name being given to individuals who are moving into Norse towns. Irish people who are moving into Norse towns tended to end up with the surname Doyle. Um, uh, but I have a full video that sort of explains that sort of step as that happens. But obviously, it comes from Dovgilla. Dovgilla is a common name in the Irish Annals. So yeah, it's can you do? My name is Devons. Anything about it? Yeah, Devon or Divine is it's what actually of all the names that exist of Irish names, I believe the Divines have some of the most variations of the name. It's, like Devins, Divines, Davin, Davy, Davis. You know, so it has the most sort of translations for the name. I think there were hereditary bards or poets. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure there were. But anyway, just so you're aware of like who they are, they're an Erchelen family, so they're descended from the kingdom of Erchelen. So and I believe there's another branch as well, who are a branch of the O'Neills, not O'Neills, but of the Kenalowen. So it's quite a common surname in Ulster, primarily focused around Fermanagh. So they're leading family, I believe, as well that they were earners of a church as well. So yeah, but Fermanagh is I suppose the heartland of the surname, and like I say, I'm not sure, but I know there's a branch in Tyrone, but they may be a later addition into Tyrone. I'll have to research that, but Fermanagh is the epicenter for the Divines. That it can be found all over Ireland, just like every surname, um, but it's I know there's a branch, and I'm pretty sure they're actually a branch of the Maguires, who were kings of Fermanagh. So, you know, it's. I actually owe an individual. There's a mutual of mine on here who's I promised him a divine video a long time ago, and I took a year and a half out, and I never got around to finishing it for him. So I will, I will, I will have to maybe go back and do that. Any information on the Gleasons? Yeah, they're a monster family. They're part of the, so there's a wider there's the Eleathan, who sort of ruled this area. They claim sort of the same relation to the Fagenti up here, the king group, but the Gleasons are part of that wider king group. So they're associated with again with the Corcalera, all the proto Anoctor. So obviously they were one of the major families in Munster before the rise of the McCarthys. So Gleasons, but this neck of the woods. Fair, fair. Thank you, McCormick. Yeah, McCormick is traditionally associated with Scottish with the Scottish migration into Ireland, um, but they are there's Irish branches, unrelated Irish branches for the name as well, and I believe one of them is a Erna family. So we have obviously I don't know if I've written them down here. So we have the Scottish McCormicks coming across in the early modern period with the plantations, um, and then we have a branch in Longford. I don't know who they descend from them. I'm not quite sure which branch they descend from, but they could be related to the Farrells. And I'm trying to remember where the other branch is from. Clare. So they're another Erna family, like I said. But the main it's the O'Cormacans who changed their name to McCormick. So you'll find in their early history they referred to as the Cormacans, but a lot of them changed their name to McCormick. So you have two Irish branches of McCormicks and you have a Scottish branch. Yeah, so it's can you do O'Hagan, please, from Derry? Please, thank you. Hi, Kayla Cross. How are we doing? Hang on. I will get to Hagan in a second. I really should thank everyone who's gifted. You don't have to gift. You don't have to gift to get your name mentioned. Hang on, but just quickly for you, Sean. There's an O'Driscoll video on my TikTok. There, you're on TikTok, aren't you? Yeah. Literally, it's near the top. It's maybe a couple of lines down. It's the white shield with a black ship on it. I don't know and it's because I left the name in Irish on the front cover of it. But yeah, if you look you'll see a horrible picture of me, and then there's a white shield with a black ship on it. And that's the O'Driscoll videos there. I've already done them tonight, that's all. So if you want full video, 3 minutes of history, that's the group there. So everyone, Larry, thank you very much. Fionton, Miss Kelly, thank you both very much for the flame hearts, finger hearts, roses. Goth Mom, thank you so very much for the garden wings. Glenn McGee, everyone, you do not have to gift. This is all free information. You don't have to gift. I really do appreciate it. Supports the channel. Thank you very much, but you don't have to get your name seen. I will do everyone fairly and equally and as I see them. But I really do appreciate the support. All the donations go towards buying books, as they cost an absolute fortune. Helix Cross, who knows better than to gift. Thank you very much, Sean, Larry. Thank you very much for the Conquered Flags. Riggerloo, thank you very much for the cream cones, TikToks, Alan Pets, Morning Blooms, Grow a Garden, Heart Me, White Rose, Trans Queen, thank you very much. Sean, Michael Smith, Michael, thank you very much for Love Piggies. Thank you all for the roses as well. Walnut Whip, Michael, Doran, Bad Kittens, thank you very much for the flame hearts, the heart me's, the rainbows, and the finger hearts. Leave me alone. Thank you very much, Stephen Ferris, Aisling, Ashling, sorry, Ryan, Moose. Thank you very much for all those gifts, roses and the sunglasses. Mike McKinney, Angel, Darian, Jojo. Thank you very much for the heart me's and the roses. T Mac, Z King, Ryan Cunningham, Ronan Reeve, Wicked Lady, Death. What a name, Wicked Lady Death. Thank you very much for the butterfly and the roses. Wolfgar Red McGrew, thank you very much. Right, okay, let me try and get some of these names out of the way of some of the gifters here. I don't want to feel like I'm ignoring yous. Although, like I say, it's okay. Here we go. What's Larry? So, someone asked for O'Hagan. I'll do them first, just quickly. So, the O'Hagans are from Tyrone. They are hereditary inaugurators of the O'Neills of Tyrone. So, not all O'Neills. There's obviously multiple O'Neills, but the O'Neills of Tyrone. And they're from a place called Tullyogue. You can actually go see their historical fortress in the area. It's just outside Dungannon, and it's long history. It was briefly owned by two O'Brien brothers for a wee while. It was given to them by the O'Neills as a buffer state between them and the expansion of the O'Briens in later centuries. But the O'Hagans got it back, and yeah, there were also Brehons as well. And who was asking about the Quins earlier? Who was asking about the Quins earlier? Because I've just remembered, purely because of the hereditary title. Someone, I think they said they were from East Tyrone. Ernest, he's still in Ernest. I've just remembered. Oh no, he's going. Oh, he went. But I just remembered there's the O'Quins of Ancrove are hereditary quartermasters of the Killowen in Tyrone. Just remembered that branch there. I'm gonna have to put that in for him. Oh, for them, sorry. Sorry everyone, and then I'll get to. What? It's because my microphone's leaning on my buttons, and I've done it in the wrong color. Why? Oh, I've got capsules on. Right, let's try this again for the 9th millionth time. Right. Yeah, I told them all about the ones in Derry and Rappo, but I forgot about the. Right. Anyway, someone was asking about O'Donnell's. Yes, and actually, great question there as well. So, are the O'Donnells the O'Donnells? There are a few O'Donnell variations and branches purely because O and Mac and Muck are sort of interchangeable. They become interchangeable purely because a lot of families dropped it and then regained it in what became known as in the 19th century as the Gaelic revival. So in the 19th century in Ireland, there was this big push by families who had dropped the O's and the Macs of their surname due to things like the penal laws and stuff, and to avoid discrimination and obviously a heavy push in the 17th and 18th century to anglicise Ireland. But in the 19th century, there was this big push again to re-Gaelicise their names. So a lot of families erroneously, like the Donnells, you'd have a lot of families called Donnell. They would erroneously put Mac and O in front of their names. So you do kind of get variations of both. So some can be the MacDonalds from Antrim, who were of Scottish branch, came across in the 14th century. You also have MacDonalds, just briefly, from County Clare as well, who are related. Again, can become O. But primarily the main family of the O'Donnells are from Tyrconnell. They rose to prominence in the 12th century. I do have a bit of a video of their rise to power. I would also recommend watching my full video on the Battle of Ballyshannon for the rise of the O'Donnells. That sort of gives a bit of context, and it's about them as well, a famous battle they fought in against the Normans. Anyway, yeah, so they're related to the wider king group called the Kenal Conal, which, here you go. And the Gallagher, you were asking about the Gallaghers as well. They are too. They both descend from the same line of the Kenal Conal, and so they are closely related. Not so much anymore, obviously, but they do descend from the same common paternal ancestor. And the Gallaghers were from sort of where this L and O area is, but Gallagher can be found on both sides of this peninsula here, or not this peninsula, this bay here, in Mayo. They descend from the same Gallaghers. A lot of people get a bit confused with Gallagher because it means like foreign soldier, but in etymology of its name. But like I say, most people just because it means something doesn't mean that individual who has that name was a foreign soldier. It's just a name that could have been given to them, and also we have a long history of soldiers migrating around, Ireland. So, and also this is Concannon territory as well. So it may have been a name given to them by the Concannons, sorry. So there's a lot of reasons for that. It's etymology, but they are related. DNA and annals proves this. So yeah, so Brennan's has a few origins. We have the most famous Brennans are from a place called Idua in the ancient kingdom of Rusruga, but this is now modern day Kilkenny. So you have that branch, and they're related to the likes of the Fitzpatricks. They're related to those sort of groups. You have a branch here that are from a different, in their etymology, are from a different surname, a different name, but it's been anglicised to Brennan, and they are related to the they are a sept of the O'Sullivans. So that's another variation of it. Then you have, if you come up here, I can't remember where they've gone. Where are they from? It's going to annoy me. Too many names to spot them out. Anyway, there are Brennans from all over Ireland. There's an Ulster branch, and I can't remember where they are. For the life of me. That'll annoy. Oh, but you've got the Meath family, who are related to the Southern Eniel. I've probably got them mixed up with the Northern Eniel. So yeah, so there's I think there's up to five. Variations of the name. But yeah, Brennan's most famous branch is the Ushergar Kilkenny line. Most people associate themselves with that. And thank you so very much for the £10 gift on YouTube, Mark Pips. Thank you so very much. You don't have to gift, but thank you so very much for that. I'm very generous of you. I don't know what to say. Thank you very much. You didn't have to do that. I know the Crawfords were Scots, but I know a family of Crawfords migrated to Ireland. Can you tell me more about them? So, they obviously came across with the plantations of Ulster. Hang on, I have a map. So as you can see here, Scots immigrants coming across in the 16th and 17th century, and this is, but obviously that we have a large. this map's actually a little bit wrong on into detail. A lot of this orange is a English and Scottish. They're very it's in more detail. It's a bit more um, uh, it's a bit more. Hang on, I might actually have a video. I don't actually have a thing of it. Anyway, yeah. So there's a bit more, mingling between the two. um, but yeah, the Crawfords tend to associate themselves with the John Crawford, the Lord of Kilberry. He was from Argyll. Kilberry, I believe, is in Argyll. So a lot of families. I think he came across the same time with the Adairs. So the Adairs were given land in north of Lough Neagh, and I think the Crawfords um, weren't far from it. But I can't remember where. But yes, I believe that the most famous Crawford came across with John Crawford, Lord of Kilberry. What else about the Crawfords? I don't know of any. I don't know of any Crawfords. Hang on, what am I trying to say? I don't know of any Crawfords like where they went as a single entity, but I will look into it. Obviously, I know there's a Crawfordsburn in South Down, in North Down. So obviously a lot of what was quite common was for lairds, lords, landed title holders would find a town. It was part of the plantation was that you were giving this chunk of land with your undertakers, but you had to find a town that was walled, because obviously the coming into Ireland, it was still a very hostile territory to this mass migration. So you had to find a town, and it had to be walled, and there was some other sort of aspects of it that you had to have. So, I believe that Crawford's was founded by them. What else do I know about them off the top of my head? That's all I know about them in Ireland. If I'm completely honest, But what I will do, I will put them. I don't. Crawford. Where is it? I'll put them because obviously there are a lot of families. They're Border Reaver family. They're from East March, aren't they? So, in Scotland, the East March is a section of divided territories of the Border Reaver territories. So sheriffs were in Scotland and England. Sheriffs were put in place of certain sections of the Border Reaver territories to sort of police and sort of act as middlemen between these reavers, these raider families, and the Craws or the Crawfords were one of them, and they were from East March. From what I understand, they were living in an area that's succumbed to a lot of Viking myths. Yeah, so the Vikings were long gone by this stage. Do you just mean in history? No, the Vikings were. There's almost 900 years, 800 years. No, is it that long? Hang on. 8th, 9th century, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. Yeah, there's almost like 800 years between the arrival of the Crawfords from the Viking era, the arrival of Vikings. Obviously, there's probably only like 500 or 600 years between the last sort of of the end of the Viking Age and to when they arrived. So but unless you're on about in Scotland, then Scotland was heavily has a long tradition with the Vikings obviously being in there, and purely because they were getting it from both sides. You had the Kingdom of Northumbria, you had the Gaul from the Isles, and then you had the Vikings coming in from the north through Moray, through the Shetlands, pushing down. So, and they're all sort of different dynastic groups. So they really were. Scotland probably has more of a Norse influence in its culture and its genetics and its history, purely because of it being surrounded on all sides. It was completely surrounded. So therefore, heavily influenced by the Norse. Um, in like I say, in its culture and its history and its language, you can see it everywhere. You can see it everywhere in Scotland. And obviously England. The area I'm referring to, the Border Reaver area, it was a uh, it, even though each line had its own sort of side, Scotland and England, the Reavers didn't really see the boundary. They just sort of wandered between the border. Because I know the Crawfords on the English side of it, but again, Northumbria, part of the Northumbrian kingdom, was ruled by the Vikings as well. Actually, from a Viking dynasty from Ireland, the Emer. It's okay. It's okay, Memphis. It's hard for me to just keep track of it all as well, so I understand. You shouted at me for using Viking. I, yeah, I have to use Viking. I have to because not everyone understands. Look, I'm the teacher here. What I say goes. I'm never, I'm right. But what's that from Matilda? I'm right. You're wrong. No, Ashley Whitehead, thank you so very much for the $4.99 on YouTube. You don't have to give it. Thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know what to say when you stop giving me money, people. This is free information. Flood. The flood name, please. I believe it's from a northern county name. Yeah, it comes from the Tullys. The Tullys, because the Tully variation of the name. Oh, Mark, I will get a video done very soon about the Crawfords. At least I can do for that gift. Although I often shout at people for giving me money when it won't affect how much how likely I am going to do your video, but I feel the amount you gifted is more. I have to do something. I'd feel so bad. Yeah, sorry, I was talking to Ashley there. Yeah, so the Tullys are. You're right. The Tullys have association with the northwest, uh, so that they're kind of found in sort of this area of Ireland from Fermanagh to sort of Sligo, Leitrim, North Connacht, and I think they were hereditary physicians as well. They're hereditary physicians, but yes, their translation of the name, it means something by the water, like a marshland or like like a river, like a river bank. So whenever families were changing their names, they often anglicized their name to something that would refer to their name, which is why the surname White is very common in Ireland, because that you would have a lot of people with white in their the variation of white in their name, Bon, and then they would just adopt the surname White. So Flood's the same. So it comes from the O'Tullys, who are hereditary physicians, and they're, like I said, they're found in from areas from Fermanagh to Sligo is that sort of area of the world, they they have nothing to do with Tully's castle in which was the site of a massacre of the planters, and I believe that's in Fermanagh. Um, so yeah, we are all students of the world. Where does where do the burns begin? I have done the burns, a full video on the burns, on YouTube, um, and but there's a lot of variations to the name. I think there's up to 10 unrelated families, but only a handful are well attested in the annals. The most famous line is from Wicklow, though. The most famous branch. They're part of the Emal king group, so they came across from uh, Kildare and settled in here, and they have a really interesting history. I would check it out on YouTube, my YouTube channel. Oh, is that the time? Oh my goodness gracious! Goodness gracious! I was a little bit late today, so I suppose me staying up this time is probably fair. I probably but I won't. I can't stay. I won't be staying on too much longer. Jeez. We I'll end up getting I'll end up falling asleep on you. Faye, please. Ren, were you the one over on TikTok? I kept meaning to get to it, but then I got sidetracked with other waffling. Faye has a lot of Faye, Foy, Fahi, Facta. That has a lot of variations and branches. Probably the spelling of like I say, so you have like the Fahis of Roscommon. They're a branch of that gets anglicized to Fae. That's probably the most. They're probably the most sort of famous and numerous of the family. It's also it's also a variation of Fiacre. So obviously you've got the tribal groups of the Fiacre from the Fiacre Mui and the Fiacre Ein. Hang on, I do have a map. Fiacre Mui and the Fiacre Ein. So anyone that's had that sort of name, Fiacre, obviously can possibly have been the descendant of anglicized to Fey or Foy or anything like that. So I do believe the Fiach are there's a branch who are a Braham family as well, but I don't know where they're from. Sorry to say, do not know where they're from. And then you have the Fays who are earners as well, hereditary earners of a church. I haven't figured out which church yet. I might have done actually. Let me check here. Oh, I have. You are in luck. So they are earners of several churches actually. Where's my map? There it is. So they're earners of Derrybrusque in Enniskillen. And they were also associated with Armagh as well. But yeah, Enniskillen's in Fermanagh. So there you go. Fees, Fiach. Where's my chat gone? Thanks, my flood relatives from Drogheda previously in Tyrone, I think. But previously in Tyrone. Yes, obviously migrations in family are. I do have a lot of notes on the Tullys. A good friend of mine is a Tully, and I do intend to do a video on them very soon. probably in the next couple of weeks. So that will come out, and obviously I'd say keep an eye on that, because that's more than likely the line you would sort of descend from. It's an anglicization of that name, the O'Toole. So please keep an eye out for that. Glenn McGee, thank you so much, very much, for the 10 checkered flags. I really appreciate that. You don't have to gift to get your name. Just remember, chat, you don't have to gift to get your name mentioned. I will get to them as best I can through all the chat. I will try and get to as many as I can. So McGee, problem with anyone that knows this channel will know how much McGee, McKay, Mackay, Keys, McHugh frustrates me, because all those names are interchangeable, all of them, and it's it comes from the Irish A or E, depending on variation of the spelling. AED, you'll see it in the annals as AED or AODH, and that's where the Mackays, McKays, McKees, Keys, Hughes, McHughes, they all descend from that kind of surname, that an individual with that eponym. So it's a bit problematic whenever you have so many variations of the name, variations of your name. So that sort of branch of the name are there's a couple of places. So there's McGee Island down. So there's a the McGees of Ulster were a Erna family primarily. Like I say, this is all going off your variation of the spelling, and they're from South Down. Primarily, the McGees are associated with Donaghcloney in modern day Craigavon, and they were earners of a church there. Which means they could also be associated with. There's an ecclesiastical site up here. What's it called? It's in my intro video. It's gonna annoy me. Anyway, there's a McGee Island there as well with a castle. So they could be associated with each other and be linked to. I will look into that, because I've only just thought of that now off the top of my head. So that's something I'm going to enjoy digging into. Kira Cross, thank you very much. Is that a resub, or is that your first sub? I can't remember. But thank you very much. Welcome to the clan. Again, or just welcome in anyway. Is that you trying to make sure I never block you? You're here for good now. Thank you, Keelik. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much for not even just that, just for all the comments and that and the great chats. Thanks very much. Hi Willow. You've paid for the right to be here. I can't get rid of you. Yeah. So yeah, Glenn. McGee's is mostly that spelling's a South Down name. But I will definitely look into more of that. Hi Willow. The Leons is Connacht and a Munster name. So they're found in Kerry. There's a Castle Leon down here, like a branch of the Eleathan. So they're wider related to the Cork Lera. I don't know if these two branches are related to each other. Do not know. But Kerry, Cork, and then there's a branch up here in Galway as well. They're all Irish branches, and they're because it looks like an English name. It looks like the way it's spelled, the way you would think it's a Norman name, or something like that. But it's an Irish name. Wow, Dylan Steele, thank you so much for the gift on YouTube. You didn't have to do that, but thank you so very much for that. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate all of the all the gifts, all the support. Tonight's been amazing. Thank you so very much. But every time when I start thinking about, oh, maybe I should leave, like, you know, it's time to maybe. Excuse me. You people come in asking questions. Mahoney's, yeah, Mahoney's. I got a few origin points to Dylan. It comes from the son of Mathmagan, so probably the most famous Mathmagan is O'Brien's brother, who was king of Munster. I don't know if all the families came descent from him, or if some families came descent from him, but he was king of Munster. And I believe some of them claimed descent from either him or Brian Bruce, I believe his uncle. But there is a Dalcash family, so they are related to the likes of the O'Briens, closely related. There's also a branch down here in South Cork, and I believe they are I can't remember if they're Corkalira or Owenocta, off the top of my head, which will drive me insane. But yeah, they're I'm just trying to see here if I had anything that would sort of say the branches of it, but I don't. I have nothing on that. So anyway, but I think they're probably Corkalira just by their association with this part of the world. Anyway, so there's that. But here's the problem with the name. Not so much problem with the name. It's a variation of McMahon. So it comes from the same eponym of Mathmagan. So they are variations of the same name. So where you can see McMahons, you can see Mahoney's, and Mahoney's you can see McMahons. So you can also see them in the kingdom of Verchilla in Ulster, and it can be a bit confusing there. So O'Mahony, McMahons are variations of the same name. So you can sort of descend from one of those four groups. Well, two of them are technically related to each other through the Dalcash king group. Through this king group, the McMahons and the Mahonys. But you could also, like say, you could descend from the Corkalira and the Erchella. So, Hannah, thank you so very much for the $4.99 gift on YouTube. Thank you so very much. You didn't have to do that. I really do appreciate it. That's amazing. I don't want to say the support tonight has been absolutely amazing. I can't thank you enough for it. But I feel bad. You shouldn't. Don't give me money. All I do is buy books with it. Right. I'm gonna right. Collins is they're part of the what do you call them? The Ecabra Gavra. That's not right though. The something Gavra. They're part of the Ecabra though. They're from Limerick, but they moved down to. Hang on, I'm looking at the wrong map. They moved down. So there you go. There's Collins. This is their original homeland in Limerick, but they moved down to just outside Cork in the 13th century, I want to say. Very cool, thank you very much. No, just keep an eye out. If you ever see, I will do a Mahoney video, but also if you see a McMahon video, I would say check that out as well, because it can relate to possibly your name, unless you know you're from a Mahoney line, you know, unless you're from South Cork, and your family's been there as long as Paper Trail, and you know you're from that branch. But if you're from families from Clare or Ulster, maybe just keep an eye out for both the Mahoney and McMahon videos, tell everyone about your project you want to do. Is that the one where I've got loads of projects? I have ADHD. I have a million projects, Keelik. Is that the one? My dream is to, obviously, with all the support, hopefully to turn this into some sort of job, in that I can go to all your ancestral lands and castles and do my videos and give you your history in the area where, in the lands that your ancestors held. So when you are learning about your family history, you're looking at the landscape that your ancestors looked at, so you can actually see and visualize the very landscape that they were a part of, as you're learning about the footsteps they walked in. So this is the dream. This is the dream, obviously, like I say, is to travel Ireland, sit on a mountainside and be like, do you ever see the Lion King? It's like, Simba, everything the light touches, is yours. I'd like to do something similar to that and be like, Dylan Stevie, everything the light touches was Mahoney Lands. So this is the dream, guys. So all the gifts, bring me one step closer. All the follows, all the likes. So it's it is we're always inch by inch we're making it there. Anything on the Breen family? The Breen family are there's I think there's four or five. I can only think of four off the top of my head. Off the top of my, like, thinking, but anyway, so the Breen family of Westmeath. They descend from the same line as the McLaughlins. The McLaughlins, they're a southern E. Neil family. But there's also another family of Breens that might appear here from Meath as well, but they're part of the Lunya King group. So, or they were Kings of Lunya, Lords of Lunya, but they could descend from the Lunya King group as well, because that was their heartland. So again, they're unrelated. They're not related, but they're found in the same province. So dividing who's who would be very hard. Although I believe this line sort of disappears from the records, although they don't die out, but they disappear from the records in the middle of the medieval period. The Breens of Mayo as well. I don't know who they're related to though, but their overlords were the Costellos, who were a Norman family. So, but I'm not sure their lineage, and where their base is kind of like right in the middle of of four prominent tribal groups. So, be very hard to link that down. And then we've got Breens here, who are an Erner family. I don't know the church, but I will eventually. And they're part of the Eviner, so they're related to the O'Kellys. So yeah, where is Sweeney? Sweeney's up here. I have a full video of the Sweeneys on YouTube. Feel free to go and check that out. And that will tell you as much as you need to know about it. Cobain or Cobain, please. Yes, Hannah. Well, obviously, probably the most famous kinsman you have is Kurt Cobain or Cobain, or depending on the variations of the name. It's actually I believe it's Huguenot. They're Huguenot French, and they came across to Ireland primarily. Well, I know all this because obviously I was a huge Nirvana fan in my teens, and then obviously I had to look at his name because it looks very Irish. It does look very Irish, but it's Anglo-Irish hybridization of a French Huguenot who were Protestant French refugees who settled in Ireland in the 17th century. And the Cobains primarily settled in Tyrone, around here, before many of them obviously moved on a century later to the Americas. I don't know that much about the history of why they end up in Ireland, of all places. but and I don't know too much about the history of the Huguenots because it's French history. But what I do know is that they were French Protestants who were receiving persecution during a series of religious strife and discrimination all across Europe between Catholics and Protestants and Catholics, vice versa. Um, and the Huguenots were, I believe, they also had obviously there was like a massive massacre of them in I think Paris, and they ended up fleeing to um, the Britain and Ireland. By this stage, it was Ireland it was completely conquered by England. So, but I don't know why they ended up in Ireland and why they didn't settle in England. Maybe some did settle in England. But yeah, French Huguenots. The Protestant Reformation. Yeah, I mean it all there was there was a couple of centuries there where it was a bit a bit distasteful to be one or the other. I mean, the Protestant Reformation, the Reformation happened in the with Martin Luther, Protestantism, can't even say the word. You can tell I'm not a Protestant. I can't even say the word. It happened in the 1500s, but so this is. But this was the formation of it. It took about a century, and the creation of the printing press and stuff that sort of really sped it up. And then you had likes of Henry VIII and stuff, and it just sort of led to a very tumultuous time. And then obviously 1640s is we have that leads right into William of Orange and the Grand Alliance against the French, which stems from persecutions of Protestant people. So it's all interconnected, as is all our history. Then buy books with it. Thanks very much, Mark. um, uh, Actually, I did Cunningham earlier, didn't I? Did I not do Cunningham earlier? I thought I did Cunningham earlier. Where's Duffy? I haven't got all the names on here yet. This is a work in progress. I will hopefully get more on there. I do spend some lives just where I just fill this in. They're a little bit slower than most lives. It just depends how I feel, what kind of live. The lives tend to encompass a normal sort of standard procedure of me pointing to a map and going, "Look, guys, that's where your family's from." But sometimes I do try and make sure I get some work done on the lives, and I fill in this map. Uh, um, the yeah, it's I will add more. No, it was flood. No, I actually I thought it was a I did see Cunningham earlier because just to let you know, the Cunninghams are obviously a Scottish family, but there's Irish branches that anglicise themselves to Cunningham. One from the Conways from Mayo and South Ulster, um, Tyrone primarily, uh, are from the Conway or Conboy um, family that they they anglicised their name to come, a bit like how your Tully ancestors anglicised their name to uh, flood. So again, it looks like if you've got Cunninghams, possibly they've anglicised themselves Cunningham, but obviously it's another name that has a plantation aspect to it in the sense that there are Scottish family called Cunningham that came across. And yeah, wow. Thank you very much. Sorry, D. I don't know how to pronounce the second word initially, but D, thank you so very much for the $5 New Zealand. Thank you so very much. I've got family. My sister lives and is married to a Kiwi. um, she's now a Wallace. I love those lives. But yes, thank you so very much for that. Please, could you do the Danaher? I know the name was changed at some point. I'm not even sure how it was originally spelled. Thank you very much. Yeah, so Danaher is a variation. It can be a variation of Dunica, which can be another variation of Dunica. So you get like the problem with that. Then Dunicas are McDonaghys, McDonoughs, O'Donohues. There's Clan Donegal in Scotland. So yeah, these are all descendant for Donegal is a very common surname in medieval Ireland. And Danaher or Denny or Deany or Dennehy are a variation of that. Um, um, so it can be a variation of that name. Um, so again, wherever you see Donahue, McDonough, um, they're interchangeable with the Dennehy, Danaher surname. So you can be related to one or of those branches, not just your variation of spelling. Your variation of spelling though is primarily a Cork variation. So if you're gonna be from a main Donegal line, possibly it's from the McDonoughs, O'Donohues. That's where your association is going to be. Both of which are Owenocta families anyway, which was the tribal group that would rule Munster from the 8th century. So yeah, it's Did you ever find anything on the Everson? Was that not? Were you not here yesterday, Hoot? Someone else asked about that too. I thought it was you. I thought it was you. Um. Uh, yes. Yes. So obviously I think. Well, I'll just reiterate. I'll just speak to it as if so. There's a couple of branches. I don't know if I told you about all of them, but yeah, this it seems to be a an Irish name that comes from possibly a Norse name, Ivar. Um, so you have Ivers, Evers, but you also one of them is a branch of the O'Donovans in Limerick. They've the MacEmers, stuff like that. So um, most probably I think there's some sort of association. Some families would say that they link to the Emer, which was the Donovans have a sort of link through a maternal line, possibly from the Emer, who were the sons of Ivor the Boneless. I've got a video on them. If you look out the sons of Ivor the Boneless, then you can look at like Ivor's descendants, and I do believe the Donovans get a wee bit of a sort of mention in that. But then you've got the De Evers, who are a Norman family from primarily from Meath and Dublin. So two polar opposite sort of associations with the name. The likelihood of them being a descendant of Ivor the Boneless is probably minuscule, because this is centuries before the formation of surnames. So, but yeah, MacNab means the son of an abbot. Yes, correct, it does. And most people get a little bit confused by that, because obviously in our modern view of the church, the Catholic Church, we obviously associate with celibacy, but that's wasn't always the case. There was a long tradition of marriage within the church within Ireland and Scotland. So yeah, it's McNabb is more associated with Scotland and Ireland. But yeah, it's but it can be found in Ireland as a native Irish name. But I'd say the McNabbs of Scotland are probably the more numerous of the name. My name is Farrell. What does that mean, and where does it come from? Farrells are a Longford family. I have a video of them. If you look out for the green shield with a yellow lion on it, and near the top of my TikTok videos or go on my YouTube, you'll see a history of Farrells. But primarily they were subordinates to the O'Rourke's, and they moved from Leitrim into Longford before gaining independence from the O'Rourke's in the 13th, 14th century. So, thank you. No, I like to say, any more information I find over time, inadvertently, I will share. But I'm not actively researching them now at the minute. I've got some projects I need to do, but every time I come across a bit of information, I write it down. So, and I put it in a wee note. Hopefully I'll get a video on them in the future. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the info. I know my granddad's family was from Limerick and then moved to Liverpool and dropped out a letter or two from their surname. That's such a common story with a lot of Irish families as they anglicise their name. Yeah, it's a lot of diaspora would share with that. Willow McRourke's are a branch of the McLaughlins, or McLaughlins originally in the McLaughlins. They are associated with the Southern Neil. They're a branch of the I think they descend from Clan Coleman. So they're part of the main clan of the Southern Neil, the main royal line, as it were. Yeah, they're found in Westmeath. Often it's kind of confused with the O'Rourke's, and it doesn't help that there's an O'Rourke branch all the way down here who worked for the McCarthys. I think they were hereditary. I think they were hereditary beekeepers for the McCarthys. They were an expelled branch of the O'Rourke's, but when you're completely surrounded by Rourkes on either side of you, it's very easy to have your history subsumed by larger families. But yeah, they're closely related to the McLaughlins, who are obviously of Clan Coleman. Yes, ancestors mentioned Clan Coleman, true kings of Ireland. Donovan, please. I just talked about Donovans. They're a branch of Donovans have an interesting history in that they claim to be descendants from Ivor the Boneless. If you look at my Ivor the Boneless video on YouTube, descendants of Ivor the Boneless. But I think that's been misconstrued. They could have a maternal. They definitely have a maternal link to the Emer dynasty, which is Ivor the Boneless's dynasty, they have a close relationship through the city of Limerick. They were intermarrying, fostering each other's children. But there seems to be some association there with that dynasty. And the Orions is like there's a lot of branches of them, but if you're from a Limerick family and your family are obviously within this area, chances are you descend from the Mulryons of Onybeg and Tipperary, who claim to have come from Leinster in the 13th and 14th century and pushed across. They could be descended from a similar branch called the Orions here of Idrone, who descend from an individual called Dovgilla, who may or may not be Norse. Again, it's probably unlikely, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility. Yes. Yeah, we need to, Keelah, we need to kick those monster ones to the curb. Brian ruined it for us all. He nailed us. True kings, everyone. True kings of the north. Right. Um. Okay. I think it's coming up to half one. Way past my bedtime. I'm gonna get, well, not even past my bedtime. I won't get any work done tonight. Normally after a live, I have to get work done, but I'm not gonna get any done tonight. So if I haven't got to your name tonight, I do apologize. I will be on next Tuesday. Members, I will. There will be a members only live on Saturday. Um, and I haven't really worked on it. I've only worked on the McDonald's, but I can't remember what my list is. I'm meant to be working on them tonight. Excuse me. So if I haven't got to your name tonight, I'll be back on Tuesday. Or if you remember, just keep your questions until the members only live on Saturday. Um, and uh, yeah, I'll. I'm going to Umaha. Oh, I love it there. Beautiful place. Absolutely love it. And I managed to get to a day where it was such a great, beautiful sunny day. And then I got to go to Tullyogue as well on the same day, which was just and O'Neill's Hill in Dungannon as well. So you're in for a great wee day there. O'Mara, I've got an O'Meara video on YouTube. Please, a 30-minute video. Please check it out. But there's also check out the O'Mara on TikTok. I see it. No, he's Silora. But I'll. Yeah, but as a member, Keelah, you'll be able to watch on. Oh, you won't be able to watch it because you're a TikTok member. Oh, if you're a YouTube member, you'd have been able to watch it back. Anyway, but any questions, just message me. Right. Anyway, so yes, I'm. Why is O'Halloran spelled with an E? Because there are hundreds of variations of the same name. It's just how I spell it. But there's plenty of different variations. All of them right. Okay. Hayes is such a big name. It's got like 10 unrelated branches. It's a variation of Hughes. It's a variation. So wherever you see the name McHugh, it's a variation of Hayes. Probably the most famous branch of Hayes is from Munster. That variation of spellings tends to be a Munster surname, but it can be found all over Ireland. But it's too big a name for when I'm meant to be leaving that I can't end on that one. So, but yes, I'm gonna end up going. Savages are from the Sega. There's Savages, a Norman family found in the northeast, from where I'm from. Well, I live on the peninsula. I'm originally from Banbridge. Right. Anyway, I'm going. I love you all. Thank you for a great live, everyone. To everyone who gifted, thank you so very much. Mills, Linz, Charlie, Ma, Drifty, Hoot. Thank you, Kevin. User 76193. I will catch you. Drew, Family First. Thank you very much. Brian, Charles, Glenn, Anastasia, Padja, Sean White, Band, Tiny Siren, Willow. You shouldn't gift Willow, you're a member. Sean, Tiny Siren, thank you very much. TJ, Mary, Ireland, Keelah, Rose, McQueen, Larry again. Thank you so very much, everyone who gifted, and about those gifts on YouTube too. I will see you all on Tuesday. If you're not a member, if you're a member, I will see you on Saturday. Take care. Love you all. Slán go fóill.